Om Sri Sai Ram. I offer my most humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of Mother Sai. Respected elders, dear brothers and sisters, and children in Sai family. As we enter 10th year of the Aradhana Day Mahotsavam of our dear Lord, it's an opportunity Bhagawan has given us to rededicate ourselves and live our lives in the path laid out by Him. It is a day when each one of us want to worship our Lord through Nava Vidha Bhakti that is dear to each and every one of us. Swami, we pray that you accept this garland of Nava Vidha Bhakti stitched together by your children. Dear listeners, let us immerse ourselves in this divine downpour for the next 1 hour, which has short reflections and songs. Let us put into practice the teachings of our Bhagawan. Shravanam is brought to you by Sri Bishu Prushti, deliberating how Swami allowed us to practice Shravanam through listening to his vast ocean of discourses, songs, and poems. Sri Ravi Kumar explains Kirtanam, recalling how Swami institutionalized and universalized the concept of bhajans. Vishnu Smaranam is highlight of Sri Vedanarayanan, showcasing how Vedic chanting has taken all over the world through Bhagawan's Sankalpa. Sri Gunaranjan, an alumnus, brings immense experience through Padasevanam and how Swami taught us to serve the divine in every being. Vandanam is brought to you by none other than All India President of Bhagawan, Sri Sathya Sai Seva Organization, Sri Nimish Pandya. He explains the message of Bhagawan as to how servitude has transformed countless families. Sri Tribhuvan Sachdev, a senior alumnus, reflects on Archanam as to how Swami is shaping the destiny of humanity through education projects. Dasyam is highlighted by Sri S. Kumar, an alumnus. In his personal experiences, he brings deeper understanding as to how Bhagawan inculcated Dasyam through promoting various forms of art. Sri Chakravarti Garu, our respected Chancellor of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning and a member of Central Trust, reinforces Sakyam through personal anecdotes as to how Lord established this bhakti among Lord and devotee. Last but not the least, Atma Nivedanam is brought to you by select singers as an offering at the divine lotus feet. We pray to Bhagawan to bless us and to be with us in this time. Jai Sai Ram.
Sravanam. Listening.
This happened sometime in the 70s. Someone gave a photograph of Bhagawan to Mr. Alan Levy in the US. And the moment Alan saw that photo of Bhagawan, he was new to Swami. The first thought was, oh my God, he looks like a rock star. Who is he? He looks like Jimi Hendrix, the American musical sensation of those times. And a few days later, his brother calls him to come to his home for a family function. And when Alan steps into that house in New York City, there is a music that is going on. And when he hears that music, something happens to him. He is just dancing in ecstasy. The music is going on and he's twirling in circles. He's saying, I can't express to you the waves of bliss that were just pulsating within me when I heard that music. And he asked his brother, who is this person? What is this voice? And the brother says, this is Sri Sathya Sai Baba singing bhajans. That is the cosmic voice of Bhagawan. All of us have experienced this, isn't it? Especially when Bhagawan sings the bhajan in the end. After his discourse, the moment the bhajan starts and you join in, the whole hall reverberates and you feel you're transported into a different realm. You forget your body, you forget your mind, you forget where you're sitting, you forget what you're doing. You're just one with Swami, joining in that ecstasy. We didn't have this opportunity with the other avatars, with Rama, Krishna, or even Shirdi Sai. Thanks to the current times and thanks to Bhagavan's advent in this age, today, to some extent, we can relive those moments of bliss because we have some of these recordings. And today, in Radio Sai, this is the treasure that Bhagavan has given us. These more than 1,000 discourses, bhajans, padyams, and the beautiful informal sessions, the Trai sessions, the Purnachandra sessions, the Varanda interactions. When you see them, you can relive those beautiful moments, and what it does to you can never be expressed in words. 2-3 years ago, I met this youngster who came to our office, and the way he was talking about Bhagavan, I knew that he has had definitely a very powerful moment with Bhagavan. I said, when did you know about Swami? What was that precious chance that you got with Swami? And he says, brother, I actually became a devotee just 1 year ago. Really? You have never seen Swami? I said, no, brother. Then how do you have this much love for Swami? Why do you want to know so much about Swami? And how is it that you have such deeper connect with Bhagavan? And he says, brother, I keep listening to Samarpan talks. I keep watching all these Radio Sai offerings. I listen to the radio. That is how I have developed this love for Bhagavan. And today, when we think about it, it is these powerful recollections with Bhagavan that help us to connect with him in a way that it is almost as if he is there. If you look at Radio Sai, 20 years ago, November 23rd, 2001, Bhagavan pressed the button and what started was Radio Sai. It was first the radio. Later on, of course, we had a website and we had the videos and Radio Sai modified into Sri Sathya Sai Media Center, but it started with the radio. In fact, Bhagavan himself used to listen to Radio Sai. There was a Radio Sai set in his own room. I feel that's a beautiful message from Bhagavan to us in the media center and to the entire world. Everything starts with listening. Once you listen, your thoughts become centered on him. And when you keep thinking about him, when your thoughts are completely on him, then his thoughts are also on you. When you remember him all the time by listening to his glories, you begin to experience how he remembers you, how he fills you with joy, how his thoughts are always to double your joy. And that is the beautiful journey of a devotee, and it starts with Shravana. Thank you so much.
Singing.
Sai Naam Kirtana कलियुग साधन जगदोधारण कृष्ण जनार्दन साई नाम कीर्तन कलियुग साधना. We know of Swami showing his presence wherever his Sankirtana is done, wherever his bhajans are sung. I have a personal incident to recount. In our home in Coorg, in Karnataka, we used to have bhajans at home on Saturdays. When I was away in the hostel, only my father, my mother and my sister would sit and do the bhajans. My mother would insist on my sister being very neatly dressed, hair nicely combed, and then only come and sit for the bhajans. So my sister on occasion has told my mother, "It is okay, Amma, I will sit for bhajan like this, Swami will not say anything." They came here to Puttaparthi and Swami blessed us with an interview. In the interview, Swami looked at my sister and said, "Hey, when your mother says that you should dress up properly, you must comb your hair properly and sit in front of me for bhajans in your house, you must follow her words." And my sister was shocked because this is something that happened at home 400 kilometers away in front of Swami's photograph. So if we are to attain Swami through this path, through this sadhana of Kirtana or Sankirtana, we are so lucky because this is a path that is so dear to Swami, as he himself has said multiple times to all of us. In 1986, I was studying in my 11th standard and Swami had come to the higher secondary school that year to distribute prizes. So before the prize distribution started, I sang a song called "Jag mein sundar hai do naam, chahe Krishna kaho ya Ram," which translates to, in this world there are two dear names. You can choose to sing Krishna or you can choose to sing Rama. And the song goes on. The prize distribution started and I had won some prizes. So I went up to the stage and received my prizes from Swami. After receiving the prizes, when I came back to sit with the music group, Swami turned to me and said, "Adira nee prizes chahe Krishna kaho ya Ram. Krishnudu, Ramudu, ee perulu adera nee prizes," he said. So he made it amply clear to me that these names that we hold so dear to us in our lives, these are the prizes that we really have to gain from Swami, and this is what will help us to attain Swami through this sadhana, the sadhana of Namasmarana through Sankirtana. And some of us were fortunate to have acted in dramas that involved the characters of Radha and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The wonderful thing about these dramas was that Swami would come and he would talk to all of us not just about the drama. He would not just teach us the songs. He would not just teach us the singing. He would not just teach us the emotions that went into the singing. He would not just teach us the acting. He would not just teach us the dancing, but he would teach us the real import of the devotion that these dear devotees had to him, how much they meant to him and how much he means to them. So about Radha, Swami would always tell us, "Radhaku Adhara Dhara Aradhana." So he would say that you people come, you sing for about half an hour and then go back, but that is not enough. He would say, "Dhara Aradhana." It is a continuous stream that should flow from your heart to God. And even when he would tell us that he wanted us to be like a fakir. A fakir is also somebody who sang to God, and he would not think of God just when he was singing. He would think of God for the rest of the day also. So this Dhara Aradhana is that Swami wanted, not just when we are singing to him for a half an hour bhajan or a 1 hour bhajan. And about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I recall that When I was feeling a little nervous about playing the role of this great saint who would dance and sing for the Lord, Swami would tell that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was ridiculed many a time when he would be going on the streets singing the name of his dear Hari, that people would come and pluck out his cymbals. Then he would let the cymbals alone. He would start clapping. People would come and hold his hand and not allow him. But he would not stop singing the name of his Lord, because that is what his Lord meant to him. For him, Hari is everything. So he lost consciousness of everything around him. So Swami used to tell us such stories just to make sure that come what may, this is the path that is identified for us, and this is the path we have to take, and this is the path that is so dear to him in this Kali Yuga, and we have to be like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in our lives to continuously think of him and attain him. Mad bhakta yatra gayanti tatra tisthami Narada. Lord Vishnu tells Narada that wherever my devotees sing my name, I establish myself there. I think the little catch in this statement is Swami tells us Mat Bhakta Yatra Gayanti. So before we sing Swami's name and before we expect that Swami comes and establishes himself in front of us just because we are singing his name, we must ensure that we are his Bhakta. And I think once we make ourselves his devotee and sing his name with love from our heart, he very much establishes himself there. Sai Ram.
Vishnu Smaranam.
Chanting Om Sri Sai Ram. Among the 9 types of devotion, Vishnu Smaranam is considered as one of the important paths. It means remembrance or recollection of God's name and God's glory. Sai Nama, Sai Nama, Sai Nama eva kevalam kalau nastyeva, nastyeva, nastyeva gadiranyatha. It is the remembrance of Sai's name alone is the panacea for the suffering humanity in the age of Kali. Why Vishnu Smaranam or remembering God is considered very, very powerful means the instrument we use for remembrance is the mind. And Bhagawan says, Manayeva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. It is the mind that is responsible either for our bondage or for our liberation. This mind is such a powerful instrument. It can concretize, it can materialize the object which it constantly dwells upon. That is why once Bhagavan wrote to the boys, Dear boys, the dust you think you are, dust you are. The God you think you are, God you are. Verily, thoughts are things. Brahmavit brahmaiva bhavati. When we contemplate on the God all the time, we become verily God. Once in Kodaikanal, I asked Bhagavan, Swami, how to have your physical proximity at all time? We don't want any separation from you. Bhagavan replied, as long as the physical body exists, separation is inevitable. During that period of time, when you contemplate on the beautiful experiences that you have with me, my physical presence can be felt. That is the reason why even Lord Krishna give so much of importance for smarana. Ananyas chintayam tomam ye janaha paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogachemam vahamyaham, Lord Krishna says. Let there be anyone who thinks of me without any other thought, I will take care of their welfare without any doubt. That is the very reason why Bhagavan has introduced Veda chanting for each and every one without any difference between caste, color or creed. Why Vedas? Because Vedas extol God in the Saguna aspect of God in the form of Suktas and the Nirguna aspect of the Lord in the form of Vedanta. And today we can see Swami gives so much of importance to the Veda. By Veda chanting alone the universe is nourished. Vedo moolam idam jagad. That is why it is very, very important that everyone should chant the Vedas. Today, the Vedas are vibrating all over the world. There are very many masters and spiritual giants and even avatars. They could take the Vedas only up to the shores of Bharat. But Bhagavan, with his divine Sankalpa, has made the Veda chanting for the whole world. Mam anusmarana yujyaja. Always contemplate on me, Bhagavan says, by which our salvation is assured. Jai Sai Ram.
Padasevanam.
Service.
On Seva, Swami has on umpteen number of occasions given the clarion call. Madhav Seva is Manava Seva. That sums up the essence and also the direction for undertaking Seva. The essence is that all Seva that we render to whomever it may be reaches to him, to Madhava. And the direction is also that we should incessantly engage in this Seva. One cannot forget to recall the beautiful story of Sudama and Krishna. So Sudama was a great example of how even the Lord himself will go to any extent to serve his devotees and everyone for that matter. So with Sudama, Lord Krishna washed his feet and took care of all his needs. Likewise, he served as a charioteer for Arjuna. There is no role that was small or big for the Lord in the service of humanity for the establishment of Dharma. So that is a great example of how one looks at Seva, that no task is small, no task is big, all activities done with good intent is towards Seva. I recall as a student having stayed at Prasanthi Nilayam for years, several of the festivals, whether it is Bhagawan's birthday festival or several other major festivals in Prasanthi Nilayam, there would be so many devotees and Sevadal and so many, the students and all groups who would come down to Prasanthi Nilayam and be part of the Seva activities as well, to serve all the devotees who gathered there. And at the end of each of these festivals, none of them would want to miss an opportunity to have Bhagavan's Pada Namaskar, take his Pada Namaskar. And so, this is something I've always wondered. In any place of worship, the Lord is in one place and the Guru is in one place and the devotees stream in a line and go one after the other and offer their salutations. But Bhagawan demonstrated an entirely unique phenomenon. He would make the devotees sit in their place and walk. If one would actually count the distance that he would have easily run into a few kilometers. That would be the entire Kulwant hall would be full. Bhagawan would walk around giving Padnamaskar to all the Sevadil and other groups who would come. And once all of them would complete, there would be another large batch waiting to take his blessings, and they would vacate, and then he would come and again continue this walking amongst his devotees to give them Padnamaskar. This is a great lesson to me that we do not keep anybody waiting. We go and serve and serve and serve. And in a very simple but very powerful way, Bhagavan over years has demonstrated this. Ultimately, there's one very important thought I always carry. Our hand is the most important instrument in Seva. And it's actually a composition of several key individuals. So we have the 5 fingers, and each one has their own individual strength and capabilities. But only when all of them can come together, act in unison, can they perform amazing tasks and also perform Seva. I think that's a very important impression and a lesson that I always carry personally, that in all our Seva activity, not only is that impactful when we do as an individual, but most importantly, given the challenges, the socio-economic challenges that so many people face, our way to serve and address a lot of suffering that a lot of people, the impact of Seva will be much larger if we can all work together like these 5 fingers in unison and Wi-Fi, all the 10 and all our hands put together is, I think, what can bring about amazing transformation. And we are 5 years away from Bhagavan's centenary celebrations. And if we want this experience of Manava Seva is Madhava Seva, I think these 5 years, all our 5 fingers, 5 plus ply, and all of us put together, if we can apply ourselves to the Seva, I think world should experience this dictum of Manav Seva as Madhav Seva.
Vandanam.
Salutation.
Vandanam. Moment you hear this word, the first impression that comes is that somebody folds his hand and bows down to a statue or a photograph in great reverence. But it was Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba who gave a new dimension. I remember once I went to Rameshwaram, and no sooner Bhagawan came to hear that I had gone to Rameshwaram, he apparently blew up and said, "Why did he go there? What is there which is not here?" It took me a long time to understand when Bhagawan said, "What is there which is not here?" and he pointed to himself. Dear brothers and sisters, let us all remember today, throughout this sojourn, Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba on this earth, the one thing which he constantly reminded us, all of us, was that he is the divine power that resides in us, within ourselves. And therefore, the whole concept of Vandanam, which Bhagawan wanted us to follow, was to pay our obeisance to him who resides within us, within ourselves. He went a step further and reminded us that not only he resides in us, but he also resides in every atom of this earth, every atom of this cosmos, and in every human being that we see on the face of this earth or interact with. He is everywhere. There is no place where he doesn't exist. I am today reminded of a conversation between Vibhishana and Lord Hanuman, which was explained by Bhagawan in one of his discourses. Vibhishana comes to Lord Hanuman and tells him that I also equally worship Lord Rama, and so do you. But there is this great difference, that you are closer to Lord Rama than I am. You get more chances and more grace from the Lord than I do, despite the fact that both of us have the same intensity of offering our reverence to him. That's when Lord Hanumana reverted back to Vibhishana and told him, there is one difference, brother, that you definitely remember the Lord, you definitely pay to the Lord. But what have you done for the Lord? In Sri Lanka, when Mata Sita was there for such a long time, did you go and inquire of Mata Sita? Did you go and find out what she needed and what she was requiring? No. In my case, I not only remember my Lord, but I am always constantly involved in doing something for him. And that leads us, brothers and sisters, to that great quotation that Bhagawan told us, or the great Avhan, as he said, Mukh mein Ram, Haath mein Kaam. And that is the great format of the Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization. I do believe that the Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization is one of the most unique platforms where Vandanam can be practiced by every human being. Where not only you take the Lord's name, you recite his name, you remember him, but you also put into practice the aspect of service where you yearn to see him in the person you serve. And the more you see him in the person you serve, the more you realize that he is within yourself. This combination of Mukh mein Ram, Haath mein Kaam is a great gift of our Divine Master in the form of the Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization, which is a platform which allows us to experience divinity within ourselves. Therefore, juxtaposed to Vandanam of folding hands in front of a statue, or going to a temple and bowing down, or folding our hands in front of a beautiful picture of Bhagawan, which is equally venerable and efficacious. But the experience of divinity within adds on when you take the format of the platform of the Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization and plunge into it. And that's where the divine experience of his presence within ourselves manifests and grants us immense joy and bliss. All the Sevadal, the Balikas, Gurus, the members of the spiritual wing of the Sri Sathya Sai organization, I think are blessed souls who have this opportunity of using the platform of the Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization as a part of Vandanam, one of the 9 forms of bhakti. Dear brothers and sisters, the Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization is a unique platform. No avatar ever during his lifetime has created a platform or an organization and granted it its name and blessing. I do believe that Vandanam is greatly experienced by participating in the Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization. Let us all be grateful to Bhagawan for affording this opportunity to us, and let us all plunge into the association with this platform divinely ordained and granted by Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba.
Archanam.
Worship.
And number 6 on the 9th path devotion is Archanam. If we look at the literal word Archanam, it means offering worship to Lord. And what is this worship? This worship is ritualistic worship. When we worship our Lord, when we go and pray before an idol or we go to a temple, Bhagavan himself used to give an example and say, you would offer flowers, you would offer fruit, you would offer leaves, you would offer water. Of what use are all these things which you offer me? Ultimately, you are offering me all what I had only made, and you are offering it back to me. Give me something which I want from you, which is your own. And that is your bhakti. That is your devotion, which God desires. Just don't believe in ritualistic worship. Believe in worshipping the teachings of the Lord. That is of paramount importance. You must worship the teachings of God. And when you worship the teachings of the Lord, that is para bhakti. That is the supreme devotion which God wants from each one of us. How do we learn to worship the teachings? How do we do that? Swami had planned out in his master plan very well. Swami was 14 years of age when he left his home and hearth. And for the next 71 years, Swami worked incessantly. And in these 71 years, Swami came up with more than 100 schools, more than half a dozen colleges through the length and breadth of this country. And he made these the groundwork. He made these the places where the children will learn how to worship the teachings of the Lord. And what are they taught here? They are taught to develop a clean mind and a good conduct, which is of paramount importance in this world today. Swami says, you offer me various kinds of flowers when you worship. But what are the kinds of flowers which you should offer me when you are studying in these institutions? Swami said, I teach you to offer me 8 kinds of flowers. The first being truthfulness. The second being meditation. The third being control of senses. The fourth flower being compassion for all living beings. The fifth flower being forbearance. The sixth flower being peace. The seventh flower being non-violence. And the eighth flower, penance. I'm reminded of a very small example. I call it small because it may sound very small to each one of us, but it is of great life-changing effect it had on one student. Swami was kind enough to permit the Sri Sathya Sai Trust, Madhya Pradesh, to start a school in Indore way back in 1980. It was in 91 that the students, the first batch of the students of the school, got an opportunity to go to Puttaparthi to have the divine darshans. So there was one particular boy who was very good in football, and being the captain of the football team, and he had also played in Subrato Cup in the national level, and he had some kind of an air around him, and he used to think always that I am so superior to everybody. When the students reached Puttaparthi, he saw that all the children of the school were lining up and vying with each other to come and offer a letter to Bhagawan, offer a flower to Bhagawan, or talk to Swami, as Swami would very lovingly come near them. But not this gentleman, who was the captain of the football team. He would stay behind and say, what's so great about going and offering a letter to Swami or trying to talk to him? Let Swami come and talk to me. 1 day passed, 2 days passed, 3 days passed. Swami quietly kept on avoiding him. So much so that on the 4th day, the last day, he came up to the teacher who was there with them in the group, and he requested that, sir, today is the last day. Swami has spoken to virtually everybody except me. So can you please request Swami to talk to me? So the sir said, well, I can request Bhagawan when he passes by, you stay and sit next to me. So as Swami was passing by near him, the physical director, the teacher who was there, he got up on his knees and he prayed to Swami. And he said, Swami, this boy is so-and-so. He's the captain of the football team. And he has also represented our school in Subrato Cup, also in football. So Swami gave a very loving look at this child. And he said, football? And then he spoke to him in Hindi. I'm translating it into English. Swami said, do you know what does the football stand for? When the football has blow in it, when it has got lot of air in it, people always kick it around. You are kicked from one corner to the other corner. Throughout the ground you are kicked. But the moment that air is taken out of the football, all the players who had been kicking it around, they pick it up in their hands and respectfully put it at some other place. They stop kicking it. So dear child, Swami looked at him. You also seem to be having a lot of air. Let that air out and you will also be treated in a different manner. And that is all Swami spoke to him. And that one example which Swami gave had a life-changing effect on the student. This was way back in 91. It's almost 30 years now. The student took Swami's teaching to heart, stopped being egoistic, stopped being haughty, stopped being holier than thou attitude. And then he worked hard. He passed the school examinations with flying colors, went on to become a chartered accountant. After becoming a chartered accountant, he went and joined a company. When his father needed him to come back and join him in his practice, he came and joined his father, and he kept on remembering one thing that Swami had told him. And he said that whenever, even if I'm about to do anything wrong, the God within my heart, the conscience, it reminds me and teaches me that no, you should not do it. And I always save myself from various troubles by listening to that voice of conscience, which has been like a voice of God to me ever since that final day in Puttaparthi when Swami spoke to me. Now that child has reached one full circle, and because of his goodness, because of his conduct, because of the teachings which he had followed throughout his lives, he is now nominated to become a judge in the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. So this can become a case study that how worship to God, once you take it not just as a ritualistic worship, but you take the teachings of God as worship and translate it into your lives, your life can become one good circle of happiness all around you.
Dasyam.
Servitude.
Dasyam is a form of devotion where we choose to be servants of the Lord. For today, let me pick two instances, one as Radha, another as Yashoda, as to how, because of thinking about Bhagawan, Lord Krishna, they had so much power which allowed them to be who they are. Swami wrote so many songs during this play titled Radha Krishna, in which one of them communicates the power of Radha. Radha, along with her Chalikata friend, goes to the river Yamuna and she sings. She's always in search of Krishna. So this song goes like this, and it's a folk style. Bhagawan has beautifully composed it that way. Endu boyina deva devudu, endu boyina deva devudu, indendaina dagi parikshimpa-juchenu, Nanda baludu, endu boyina deva devudu. Nedu vattunani cheppina ede Gopaludu Venudadu. Swami used to say, when I sing this, Nedu vattunani cheppina ede Gopaludu. If I sing like that, Swami says, stop. Ede Gopaludu do. Bhagawan used to be so much concerned about the details, but why I'm singing this song is, she was all the time in thought of Krishna, and so when she was walking, went to the river and to get a pot full of water, she would do like this and bring back a pot of water thinking that it's full, but because of thinking of Lord Krishna, she didn't get any water filled in that pot. And while coming back, a villager, out of jealousy of why Radha is so important, he throws a stone on her pot and the pot breaks. At that time, Radha realizes there was no water in it. But in the meanwhile, when she looks at him, he immediately develops a paralytic stroke, which lets his limbs get frozen on the one side and he falls down. There Narada comes and tells Radhamma, just take a little of water which is there in that pot and then shower on that devotee who lost his limbs. And the moment Radha showers that, he revives back and comes back to normal. That is the power of a servant of the Lord. That is what Bhagawan wanted us to learn. And Swami said, please think of Radha as a person who has been extremely sincere and not as portrayed in the real world. She was one of the topmost devotees of God, where she was all the time in Krishna consciousness. Second story, Yashoda. The village gopikas would come and complain to Yashoda saying, Lord Krishna, the little Krishna, came and stole butter in our house. And she sings, Budi budi adugulavadu, chitti potti padamulavadu, venna kundalanu ettalini vaadu, మీ ఇంటికెట్లొచ్చేనమ్మా గోపాలుడు, గొల్ల సుద్దులేలనే మా తంగి, గొల్ల సుద్దులేలనే మా తంగి. So when they complain, she tells, he's so little, he's got such small feet and small hands. How can he ever climb up so much and eat all the butter? While Bhagawan describes what he wanted to go and take from people is the butter is nothing but love in their heart. It melts very quickly, and that is what Bhagawan communicated to us, saying is the message from being Yashoda. Thank you. Sai Ram.
Friendship.
Fellow devotees of Bhagawan, today marks the 10th anniversary of the Mahasamadhi of Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, known to all of us endearingly as Swami. We observe today as Aradhana Day. This would have been an occasion for countless devotees to have congregated at Prasanthi Nilayam and pay homage to the one to whom we are bound, not in this life alone, but in many lives, although we may not be aware of it. It should be our prayer today to Bhagawan, where He keeps us with Him, whenever and wherever He chooses to manifest Himself upon this world. All of us would feel a strange combination of emotions, at once painful from the separation from Him, and joy when we recall the countless opportunities He had given to us to be close to Him. For some, it might have been a fleeting moment, and for others, it might have been marked by a close proximity day after day. Whether it was a fleeting moment or regular meetings, the eternal aspect of such occasions would be felt, because it is that moment with Him that confers upon it the quality of eternity. And it is the recurrence of meetings that would have made us hungry for more occasions. One moment would have felt completely fulfilled. Another moment would have felt totally abandoned. These feelings are only human. And as He said, it was always the same. As He said again, if you feel close to me, I am close to you. However, I am always close to you, whether you know it or not. It is such moments which are highly evocative and bring us memories that characterize our daily lives. To Him, what type of adoration can we have? What type of relationship with Him we can create in our minds? One moment we feel He is so vast and cannot be comprehended at all. At another moment, we feel intensely close where the word separation does not exist at all. To such a one, what type of relationship can we again ascribe? Great seers and saints have in their own lives felt at different points of time different kinds of relationship. This is captured in what is known to us as 9 types of devotion to Him. And let me quickly recall them as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnusmaranam, Padasevanam, Vandanam, Archanam, Dasyam, Sneham, Atmanivedanam. There is no relationship that we cannot feel with Him, although He is beyond all relationships. But if we are saddled with human emotions, we tend to ascribe our relationship at one time this, or at another time that. Whether it is as in the case of a close friend or the most obedient servant, we know that it could be fulfilling to the one who feels that relationship. For that time, it is total and complete. A little understanding will reveal to us that all these emotions of human beings to God are but poor expressions. Oftentimes, when our hearts are full in His presence, no words would adequately express the multiple feelings at multiple levels. Do we consider Him now as nearest to us or nowhere at all with us? It has been long 10 years that all of us must have had feelings of diverse nature, which in any case we try inadequately to compress by saying that it is in the nature of, and best expressed, again as I said earlier, through Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnusmaranam, Padasevanam, Vandanam, Archanam, Dasyam, Sneham, and Atmanivedanam. To strike a personal note, Swami said on the first occasion when I had his darshan, that although he is new to me, I am old to him, leaving me to speculate as to how many births I must have known him only to forget. Our time horizons are limited, and his is boundless. We should all be grateful to him for having awakened in us the feeling that we are in the proximity to God and that an indefinable grace has been conferred upon us. Adoration seems so natural to us. In spite of his extraordinary benediction while conferring this privileged relationship of being a devotee to him, we feel lost. But he also endowed us with extraordinary capacity to recall the moments of joy in his presence. Hours with him passed away as minutes, and minutes away from him seemed unending. He himself has told us that God is our only true friend. Of course, friendship can be only between equals. And what can be described as friendship between man and God? It is more a question of God treating a devotee as a friend of his than a devotee feeling he is a friend of God. Because essentially, it's the distance between God and man that inhibits expression of friendship. It feels very natural to consider oneself as a servant of God than a friend of God. Our relationship with him was nurtured through participating in his work. That way, this relationship is ceaseless as is his work. But it is friendliness to us, human beings, that enables us to feel the bond like friends. It is in our union with him that we find possibilities of different relationships. We have seen how age has no relevance in his presence, when after the interview given to a set of devotees, he used to come out and spend time with the devotees in the veranda outside of his interview room. And is so timeless that he converses with the 8-year-old student in the primary school and an 80-year-old veteran worker in the Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization with a naturalness that surpasses understanding. On this day, I'm sure we'll all recall our relation to that Lord with his indescribably beautiful form. We pray to him that he'll confer the unique joy he had given us during this divine manifestation whenever he chooses to manifest himself upon the earth.
Atma Nivedanam
and surrender.
मेहरबान तू मेहर भी तू मेरा इश्क भी तू मेरा नाज भी तू प्रीतम भी तू प्रीत भी तू सखा भी तू मेरा साई भी तू मेरा साई भी तू मेरे साई मेरे साई सबके पालनहारे सबके पालनहारे मेरे बाबा मेरे बाबा सबके एक सहारे सबके एक सहारे वो तेरी झलक थी मेरी शक्ति सर पे हाथ तेरा हो मेरी मुक्ति जो हूँ मैं तुमने बनाया मेरी हस्ती का तुम ही सरमाया तुझसे सीखा है सब तेरे साथ बीता सब तुझसे सीखा है सब तेरे साथ बीता सब मैं अक्स तू दर्पण मेरा मेरा होना तेरी नजर का है सिला मेरे साई मेरे साई सबके पालनहारे सबके पालनहारे मेरी उलझनों का जवाब तू मेरी धड़कनों का राग तू भंवर में मैं माझी है तू बंजारा हूँ मैं मंजिल है तू तू जलती लो के आकार में ठंडी हवा के प्यार में परती के दरबार में निराकार तू हर साकार में मेरे साई मेरे सबके पालनहारे, सबके पालनहारे। मेरे बाबा, मेरे बाबा, सबके एक सहारे, सबके एक सहारे। सबके पालनहारे, सबके पालनहारे, सबके एक सहारे, सबके एक सहारे।